Hello, everybody. My name is Chris Adams with Body Slam The Competition, and we have a very, very good show for you this week. We have a special guest with us, the Hart of Memphis Wrestling, Lance Russell himself, who will be on the phone with us in just a couple of moments. Mike Currents, my co-host, is with us here as well. And Mike, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good this evening, Chris. How are you doing?
I'm getting over this cold, man, but I wasn't missing it for the world. Glad you could be here with us. So I want to go ahead and get our sponsor's name out of the way here today. As of last week, dig in this week, we have World Classic Big Time Wrestling coming soon, when wrestling was wrestling and the heroes battled the villains inside the squared circle. Wrestling as you remember and loved it. And World Classic Big Time Wrestling are available for a number and variety of things. Contact them at 740-466-2892. That is 740-466-2892. You won't be disappointed. So on to our show today here, Mike. I want to make sure everybody who's out there listening can know that we do have a call-in number here if you want to call in and say a few words to Lance, have a quick question. If it's a question, make it something, please, that will be something that we could all remember here. That's fun to talk about. Our call-in number is 347-989-8082. 347-989-8082. And Mike, I'm going to go ahead here and see if I can bring Lance on with us. Give me 1 second here. Lance, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure, Chris. How you doing tonight? Mike, how are you?
Doing well, Lance. Thank you for asking.
Okay.
Yes, thank you very much. We're glad we could have you on with us tonight. We'll be looking forward to this.
I am looking forward to it too, my friend, and I heard you give that number, and I'm awfully glad to hear that, because the only thing I like better than talking to someone like yourself that has a lot more experience at it than maybe the people that would be calling in is that we get such different calls from people who are wrestling fans, and they may have been going back in the era when I was working all the time, full-time on television and radio, and doing talk shows and that sort of thing too. So that makes me feel good. I'm looking forward to that. But first, let the man make it his way. And you got a few things that we ought to talk about first. Let's do it right now.
Well, I'll tell you what. I got a question as I've always wanted to know. Always.
Right.
I remember reading somewhere that you always liked to not know too much ahead of time of what was going to happen on the show. That way you could give your honest reaction to what happened. Now, that's just something I've read. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I read somewhere. So I was wondering how much you knew ahead of time of Jimmy Hart was going to dump a bag of flour over your head on television one day.
Oh, okay. Now, you mean this is, in general, you want to know about that specific situation, and what you had read is true. And I would add this, even though you didn't ask that, but you didn't know that I'm in a position to speak for Dave Brown, who was my partner for 27 years. I think as most wrestling fans that watch Memphis wrestling, and while they called, I guess maybe I don't remember where the name came from, but I'm glad they did. They call it the voice of Memphis wrestling, and I'm tickled to death to tell you that what you read was absolutely true. There was a question with the promoters on it. There's a lot of things that we wanted to know, whether maybe if you knew all of the things that were going to happen and all of that, some of them wouldn't happen, and then there would be with our egg on our face. And the other thing is that we didn't know how you felt about that. And I told him real quickly, and this was for Dave, because Dave and I had talked about this very thing as to whether we wanted to know anything that went on before the show rather than wait until it happened. And our answer, both, we wanted to wait. We had no interest in knowing anything about it ahead of time, because it just simply took away the immediacy that is there when somebody asks you, well, what's your favorite actor in the motion pictures? And that comes up, and you got to stop and think about it and come with a, well, it's the same way here, that when we didn't know anything about it, we were a wrestling fan, which is what both Dave and I were. And so that was the way it should have been, and that, my boy, is the way that it was. Now, if you want, you make your comment now if you've got any, and I'll tell you about the Jimmy. Huh?
Your reaction to it was so spot on. You looked furious, shocked and furious, like he did it, and you couldn't believe he just did that. So that's why I always wondered if you had known or not he was going to do it.
All right, now I'm going to tell you in that instance, there was a situation where nobody else in authority was at the station because of ice and snow that had taken place on the road to Nashville, or from Nashville down to Memphis, and that's where all the guys were coming from. They were coming from Nashville, and I had a talk with Eddie Marlin and Jerry Jarrett, and they said, hey, you and Jimmy Hart are the only ones there, and so you go ahead and run the show, and that's exactly what we did. Now, Jimmy had said to me, they said, one of these days I am going to whack you with some flour, and that's going to really be funny. And and so Jimmy said, look, how about this for the day where I got to get a little flour on you, and we'll use that on the show today. What do you think? And I said, well, yeah, that's okay, Jimmy. That's fine. I mean, whatever's going to happen. Don't be surprised if I turn around and throw a whole handful of glue right back on your face or something. Anyhow, we talked about it that way before. And when it came time, the reason I looked the way that I did was, to be honest with you, I couldn't believe that son of a gun Hart took advantage of the situation. And in a way, I'm glad that it turned out, because you're asking about it, and people still do every time we go to some place where it's a question and answer thing. That question will come up. But I never in my life believe, and this is true, never in my life did I believe that Hart would take advantage of it and smack me with a whole 4-pound or 5-pound bag of flour, whichever that, and it could have been 10, I don't know what they come in, but that little pot, and he pounded me with it. And when he did, my reaction was genuine. I mean,
it was priceless.
Well, it was priceless. I'm glad it happened. I'm glad it's over with too. But that's the answer to whether I knew about that coming up or not. The answer really is yes and no. Yes, I knew that there was going to be some flour on the show, but I never in the world figured that he was going to soak me with it. And I was so dumb. We had a shower in the back that's there for all of the entertainment that comes in for whatever the show is. And so I had that stuff everywhere. Well, you saw it. And I had it everywhere. And I went back and should have remembered what my mama had told me a long time ago. Don't ever get any of that flour and water on you. It's going to make glue, so you be careful when you're around the house here and all. So I never thought anything about it, and I jumped in, and man, did I have a bunch of glue that formed right away. And it really did. It was something. So there we go.
Mike, now, Mike, you said you had a question?
It's not a question. It's a comment. Lance, I'm a little younger than Chris, and I'm a little farther north than he is, so I didn't get to see the Memphis territory. But in preparation for your visit, I've been going back and watching footage and sound bites on the internet. And, on YouTube. And I want to just say, you sound the same today that you did then. If I mean, sitting here speaking to you, I am just picturing you just as you were in those YouTube videos.
Well, thank you very much, Mark. I'm pleased to hear you say that. Not Mark, Mike. I'm sorry.
Quite all right.
And I'm tickled to have you here. We had so many guys that I could start talking now about the comments from people all around the world that I have had, and I mean that sincerely. That it surprised me. For instance, I was out in Las Vegas. I've done other shows too, and have talked on the radio there, and all of a sudden this voice comes on, and it will be a different accent and can't hardly understand some of the people. I go, where are you calling from? And it's, I'm from Australia, or I'm from somewhere else. And the reason is, and I, for a long time, I know this sounds stupid for somebody that was doing a show, that I didn't really know this part of the show, that I didn't know that our tapes were being shipped all around the world from one wrestling fan to another. There would be a wrestling fan in Australia, and they had a connection in the United States, and they would say, hey, I want to trade a tape with you for someplace in Australia that they had wrestling, and in return, I want to get that Memphis show. Any date will do. Just be glad to have any one of them as we trade them. And I didn't know that tape trading was a big thing until it was sprung on me, not in the sense that somebody was trying to trick me with it, but it is true. I just had no idea there was that much trading. You got to remember that I had a total another job. I was the director of programming for RKO General, and it was something that I had to be worrying about all of the programs, and not only just doing the one that I really loved to do, but I had a lot of stuff on my hands there, and so it all came with it, and I was surprised to find that there were that many tapes going around, and guys were hearing them all over the world, and so that was maybe a little something that was a surprise to you, was it was to me, that they were trading tapes that much.
Yeah, I think we take it for granted about in today's day and age how easy it is now for us to share videos.
Well, sure.
But back then, like you said, they would have to physically mail the tape all over the world. But hey, Chris, I think we have a couple callers on the line.
Well, we do actually. Here, I'm going to go and get our first one in here. We got Fred, who I believe has witnessed some of your stuff there in the Louisville Gardens there, Lance. So, 1 second here.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
Fred, are you with us?
Yeah, great to be on the show, guys. And it's an honor and a privilege to get to talk to Lance Russell here out of Louisville, Kentucky, Lance.
Thank you very much. Listen, are you aware of the fact that there is a brand new book on Louisville wrestling that has just been put out and published by Mark James and Jimmy Cornette?
Yes, sir, I am very much aware of
okay.
that.
Well, I didn't surprise you then.
No.
Anyhow, I got a copy of it last week, and it's been a hoot looking through it and reading about some of it, because while I was on every week in terms of being on the television, and I was in fact, but I wasn't there every week. But I did get to go there a lot of times because they would want me to do some special announcing or something was planned as a special thing, and I would go up to Louisville just like I did once a month. I went to Lexington and did it from Rupp Arena there. Dave went with me one time, but he didn't get, because of his weather commitment, he didn't get to come up every week for Louisville or Lexington or whatever. So, Fred, if you had a question, I have probably bumped into you, and so I want to say, take it away, Fred.
You got it, Lance.
Yeah, okay, man.
What I would like to ask you was, who was the hardest person for you to interview? For you to get through the interview, who was the hardest person for you to interview?
Well, it was surprisingly enough, it was something that you would think, well, that's not right, but I guess because I was so awed by Lou Thesz, who carried at least 5 times the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, and for folks who are newcomers, they never saw Lou Thesz, and they won't know who in the world I'm talking about. But Lou, the reason was, it was kind of like if somebody had walked up to you and had you had a microphone in your hand, you had to say, hey, here's Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig side by side. I want you to interview these two guys. Well, if you'd have been a baseball fan, you knew, of course, who they were big time, and you would have been just like I was with Lou Thesz. I was just almost speechless because I had such a respect for Lou as an outstanding wrestler, and he was the perfect guy that a world heavyweight champion should be. He was a big, his body was really developed, and he was a super guy and knew his wrestling inside and out. I mean, all of it. And so I would say, now there were other guys that wanted to do funny things, and that was okay. There were guys like what was the big guy that hit me and knocked me down and got mad at me and hit me and knocked me down, and I couldn't even remember the Dream Machine. There we go. Okay, yeah. And you know, it's funny how time goes by, but I had people say to me, weren't you afraid somebody was going to hit you? And I said, no, I wasn't afraid of that, because the boss of the whole thing was Jarrett, who was the promoter, and he had told everybody, you better keep your hands off of Lance and Dave, because those are the guys that are the mouth of our business, and we got to keep them going all the time, every time, and so you keep your hands off of them. And so they did. They respected that. But this one time, bam, Troy, the Dream Machine.
I remember.
Yeah, you saw it.
Yes,
and
I
told somebody, Troy Graham never knocked me down. I did. It was an honest fact. I was talking to somebody on the phone, maybe like this, and they mentioned about, well, how about when Troy Graham popped you and knocked you down? I said, it never happened, man. I mean, people talk about that. The wrestlers will talk about that, but it never really happened. Well, yeah, I just saw it this afternoon on YouTube. And I honestly my mind had blocked that incident from my memory.
It's very funny you say that, Lance. I saw that same one on YouTube just 2 weeks ago. Seriously, so it's very
really
funny. It's very funny you bring that up about that same interview. I did just 2 weeks ago. We've seen that. So, Fred, thanks for calling in, bud. I got somebody else on the line. I got to get on here real quick. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks, Lance.
Right.
Yes, sir. You bet, Fred.
All right. So now we got another guy. We got Scott from Iowa City here. Wants to say something with you, Lance. 1 second here.
All right, bring it on.
All right, are you on the line with us?
Okay, thanks for letting me come on and ask Lance. I got 2 questions to ask him, but first I just want to say it's my honor, distinct honor, to be on here and being able to ask Lance 2 questions.
Well, bless your heart. I got to tell you, Chris, you got a lot of nice people. I love talking to them. Go ahead, Scott, and fire away on it.
Okay, the first question I got is, what was your opinion when you found out that Andy Kaufman was going to be doing an angle with Jerry Lawler?
Well, I'll tell you what my opinion was. Oh, get out of here. This guy is the biggest comic on television. He is making more money than all of the wrestling people in the world and everything else. What's he going to be doing wrestling down here with Jerry Lawler or anybody else? Honestly, I was stunned. I didn't believe that it would happen. And that son of a gun was so taken away with wrestling because he grew up in Long Island. I think it was Long Island, and he grew up watching television, and wrestling was his favorite program, and he wanted to wrestle so bad. Well, he started out like probably a lot of us saw some of the things that the guys could do and their strength and so on, and we were interested in being able to do some of that ourselves, but that wasn't our primary reason for looking. It was just not believable that this guy, who was the number 1 comic in all of television, was going to be down working on our show. And so that kind of was my reaction, if you want to know the truth. And I was amazed when he was down there many times. And if anybody was around during those days, his title was, he was the intergender wrestling champion of the world. He wrestled women only. And he was the king of all the women wrestlers, not wrestlers, just all the women. He took them on. He came down to Memphis, and it all started out as a gag, as everything did with him. And it started out, and he asked his girlfriend, would she play a part and be his opponent in a nightclub act. He was also, before he got on television, he did a nightclub act. And so he asked his girlfriend to be stand up and get smart with him and get into a wrestling match with him right there in the nightclub. And that's how it all got started. Well, he took it from there that he wanted to do it in New York, but those people were stuck up and they didn't want somebody who wasn't a wrestler up there pretending to be a wrestler or something. And so he got in touch with the people in Memphis and he set it up, and they were glad to have him. He paid his own airfare and came down, and they lined up women who came up and volunteered to wrestling. We'll take him on, and if you could stay in there with him, I don't remember exactly how it was set. That's been too long ago for me. But they would get $10 or $25 or $50 or whatever it was that they got if they stayed in there with it. And so that was the answer to the question, Scott. I was stunned when I heard that.
Scott, you have a second question for us?
Yeah, the second question is, I just want to know what his opinion was when he found out that Jarrett was going to buy World Class Championship Wrestling. Did he think it was a good idea to buy World Class Championship Wrestling or not?
You're talking about something I'm not really sure, Scott, what you're referring to.
That was back whenever the Von Erich Wrestling Organization, you guys had the Texas versus Tennessee.
When they made the deal. Yeah, well, I really wasn't in on that much. I knew all of the wrestlers that wrestled down there, and they had come to Memphis and wrestled in Memphis and that sort of thing. And Jerry was and is still an outstanding wrestling promoter. Don't know of a better one in America. And but as far as that particular one incident, I really just don't have a comment about it, because, as I said a little earlier, I had a lot on my plate, and I wasn't worried about the situation that was happening in Texas, and so they did it for a while, and I guess that was the way that one went.
Okay, well, Scott, thanks for calling in this week. I surely appreciate the call, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah, Lance, we got a couple more questions for you I want to ask you. One's a fun question.
Ask them away.
I'm going to leave the fun question for last for you, but I understand you're going to be getting an award here soon from the Cauliflower Club.
Oh, yeah.
I was seeing something about that, something like a Lifetime Achievement Award, possibly.
Don't let this. That's kind of what it is, They do these things, and that we've had them the Hall of Fame deals and all of that kind of thing. And I am so excited about this one in Las Vegas. It's taking place in Las Vegas, and you know how on like the Hall of Fame or whatever the name may be, they usually have somebody to introduce the person that they're honoring, and in this case, they ask you, have you got somebody that you'd like to have introduce you into the entry of the contest of being. I can't even get that one straight. And I said, yeah, I really do. There's only one name that sticks with it, and that's a guy that I've known a long, long time, and that's Jerry Lawler, who has gone on to be outstanding name in professional wrestling all over, and he's with WWE and appears up there on there, not every night, but he's there, and I'm very happy to say that he has agreed to come to Las Vegas and do the duty of introducing me into their Hall of Fame or whatever it's called. I'm sorry, I don't throw it off. That's like I don't care what it is.
Well, that's
it
okay.
isn't that. Yeah, and I am so thrilled to have something like that come along. And this, turned out to be, I did radio first, of course, and then television. I did all kind of football, basketball, baseball, amateur, and some pro minor leagues, and that kind of thing. And the last one to come along for broadcasting, I became a fan in Dayton, Ohio, because I was an usher at the Civic Auditorium in Dayton, and they had wrestling about once a month there, and so I got, that's where I got fascinated with wrestling. And then the owner of a station in Jackson, Tennessee, where I grew up, he bought the wrestling franchise, and he then one day I was walking down the street and he hollered, "Hey Russell, you know ever done any wrestling on radio, television?" I said, "No, I never did, but I sure love it. I don't know any reason why I can't. I've done everything else, boxing and all." And so I said, "Well, you better get ready, because we're putting a show on, going to be on every week on Saturday night." And so that's exactly the way my broadcast career for wrestling started. And Aaron Robinson surprised me. He was the owner of the station. With that bit of information, it turned out to be something that long lived past all the other things that I have done in terms of broadcasting. It thrilled me, and I am still to this day, I'm just as thrilled as I can be that they've asked me to come out there, and I'm tickled to death to say that it's one that I just really never expected. And so thank you for mentioning it, and we'll be coming up. It's in the middle of April. I think it's around April the 13th, but I'm not sure of that. From Gold Coast Hotel, and there's going to be a lot of wrestling people out there, and they'll tell you all about what the program is. I call it Flower Alley Club because it's a combination. It came out of the early days of motion pictures where a lot of the tough guys in the movies watched the wrestlers and they admired them, and just as I did, and a lot of people do, and so that's how they started this social club, and then it grew from there, and there's just been everybody in the world that you know of that has been selected by them have had that same honor, and I'm very honored and looking forward to the middle of April and the whole deal. So I'm proud
Lance,
of that. Thank you for
Lance, you mentioned your broadcasting career. Mike actually has a quick question about part of that broadcasting career you did.
Yeah. Okay, Mike. Shoot.
Lance, everyone knows you did a little bit of time in WCW, and I was wanting to know what were your thoughts on that part of your broadcast career, that time you spent with WCW?
Well, I loved it. They treated me very, very nice. Turner Broadcasting is the one that owned WCW, and you've read a lot about things that happened and the people everybody from Hulk Hogan on down were the stars that have been at WCW, and it was an interesting thing because it was totally different, and the outlook was different. And some people say good, some people say bad. A lot of the guys that I worked with up there, they said, well, you and that, everybody gets laughing down there about the wrestling, and it's not true. But part of the thing, we had no hesitation about laughing and having fun on some of the funny guys when some of the country wrestlers were in town to wrestle, whoever it may be, or any of the other people that took place on it. And if you went out, particularly in a smaller town where they enjoyed to see different humorous things happen, and they didn't mind it taking place, and so they did. And so we enjoyed it, and we also enjoyed them buying a ticket and coming to see us there, as a matter of fact. So that was one of the things. They kind of said, hey, see you guys down there, and you're always making people laugh. And, well, that wasn't what we were there for. We were there to entertain them, and laughter is part of it, and we did do that. Now, I want to tell you that there's been a lot of stuff written about the WCW and people that were in it and ran it and so forth and so on. I enjoyed it myself tremendously, and I should have been retired when I went with WCW. So I won't say that I enjoyed it more than Memphis. Nothing will take the place of that. That has been a great thing that I was very happy to know Dave Brown as I did, and have him as not only a partner but a great friend, and all of those things. And I just, it was a totally different experience, and it was fun. Went all over the country. I got an opportunity to go to every place I'd ever seen on television in terms of auditoriums where they held these, and that was a thrill too. But that's enough rambling. It was tremendous being down there, and I really appreciate it, and thank you and everybody else. I'm not hanging up. Go ahead.
No. We started with a Memphis question. I got one more Memphis question for you for sure. It's just
go right ahead.
It's just a fun question. I'm sure you've had plenty of people ask you about Jerry Lawler over the years, and Bill Dundee and Jackie Fargo and all the greats that came through. Lord knows there are a lot of people came through that territory at one point or another. Terry Funks, Randy Savages, Rick Rude, you name it, they came through there. But
Hulk Hogan
was there with Ed Boulder.
He started there.
Boulder Brothers. He did.
The Boulder Brothers.
He did the Boulder Brothers. Yes, we discussed them a few weeks ago. Of the managers that were there, who did you find to be the more irritating manager? Character manager, Jimmy Hart or Downtown Bruno? And I love both of them.
Well, I guess I would have to include, as long as we're talking about it, let me add one more name in there, if you will, and that's Jimmy Cornette. Because by the time you had Jimmy Cornette, Jimmy Hart, and Downtown Bruno together, that's all that one man could take in one lifetime.
Jimmy Cornette had to spend all of Mama's money every week.
Well, that's the truth. And his mama Thelma she was a grand lady and a good friend of my wife and I, and so it was fun knowing Jimmy Hart. I still to this day, it wasn't more than a week ago that I talked to Jimmy on the phone, and we still keep in touch. And Downtown Bruno, I run across him every now and then. He's still in Memphis, and he worked for the WWE. Still works for him, as a matter of fact. Now, to answer your question, I don't have an answer. Every one of them did things that irritated me every now and then. And I'm sure I did things that irritated them, but that's the way that tune goes. But they were guys that were professionals, and they kept the pace going, and so it was a thrill to be able to work with a guy who one of the things they had in common is I guess the two Jimmys probably maybe more so than anyone else. You pop something to them, a question or something, or make a smart remark, and brother, they had an answer they were going to unload on you, and they would hope it stuck you hard and deep, and they had fun doing that. I don't mean they did it maliciously. It was just something, their way of having fun. And so those guys were all very good at it, and I would say they certainly go down in memorial proportions. We got to see them a lot of times, and I'm thrilled with that. Okay.
All right. Well, that does it for me. Well, Lance, I don't want to keep you on the phone for too much longer tonight here. We were going to do around 30 minutes or so. We're getting close to 40 at this point, and if it's okay with you, I'd like to have you on again another time in the future if you're up to it, and we can talk some more.
Well, I would love to do it. I always enjoy talking to wrestling fans, and when they are in a situation where you are, where you have a big audience out there, and the people enjoy it. I know that I'm talking to a lot more people than I normally talk to, and I have a lot of fun because I like and love the wrestling business. And I know there are a lot of people who didn't, but that's their choice of it. Same thing with anything. How many soccer fans originally were there in the United States, for instance? Not too many, but now it's grown, and so
that's true.
It's been a real thrill for me.
All right. Well, if you'll do me a favor, Lance, I'm going to place you on hold for just a moment. We're going to go ahead and start wrapping up in just a minute, but I want to talk to you off there for just a moment, if you don't mind.
Oh, okay. Well, I'd be glad to sit here and do commercials for you if you'll mail me the paper the next time. I'll do a commercial, my boy.
You know, I just might do that for you. Okay. All right. Hold on 1 second for me, please. I'll be right with you.
Yeah, I'll hold on.
All right. Thanks for coming on. Hang on.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, if you're going to take over for just a moment for me, I'll be right back with the show and everything, okay?
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like we've had a great interview here with Lance Russell this evening. We're going to move on to another point in tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about current events, things that are happening. It seems that the WWE has signed a couple big names out of Japan, one being AJ Styles maybe, and another maybe Nakamura. Let's see what happens. There's also some rumblings. Maybe they've purchased a few of the trademarks, such as the Bullet Club, and maybe some more members of that stable coming over into the WWE. As the story unfolds, we'll bring you more here on Body Slam The Competition. Of course, the last few weeks of Raw have been less than stellar, as usual. I mean, we had one good week of Raw where Vince McMahon came back. They actually got Roman Reigns over somehow. Don't know how, but after that, it just seems like that ship's been on its keel, sinking again. So, what can we do to save the sport that we all love? That's what we need to ask ourselves. Because in the next 30 or 40 years, who are we going to be talking to? I mean, we have Mr. Lance Russell on this evening, who is a legend beyond legends. And who's going to be that next person? And I really don't see anybody in the current market that you're just going to go haywire for to try to come on to and talk with you and share their stories and their life with. But we encourage all of our listeners to call in whenever we have a guest, and when we don't, we like to hear from you. We like to do a little banter with you. Hopefully, I think Chris is getting ready to jump back over here into the show, and there he comes.
All right, I am back with you, Mike. Just wanted to go ahead and wrap up with Mr. Russell there. Thank you for coming on the show. To make sure we could try to line him up again one day soon. He said he would be more than happy to come on again with us. Loves to talk to wrestling, and maybe we can have him on for another show again and get some more people to call in.
Yes, tonight was really great. We had a couple callers, and as I discussed while you were off the air, we got some current events going on. WWE's maybe looks like they might have signed some New Japan talent, maybe AJ Styles, maybe Nakamura. Seems like they might have bought some trademarks. Perhaps.
Are they getting those two, or are they getting the entire Bullet Club?
Well, now, what I've read was maybe those two, but then from what I understand, they purchased the Bullet Club trademarks and the logos, and it seems that the rest of the Bullet Club may be coming over with them. It does look like that, but I haven't seen anything definitive on any of it, really.
Well, every time you see something that seems like it's for sure, it turns around and goes to another page where it's not true. So it's hard to tell for sure which way they're going with it. And if they do come through, will they go to the main roster or will they go to NXT?
They have to go to the main roster. They have to. They're too starved for talent to send these guys to NXT. These are seasoned professional wrestlers. These are big names. These aren't people that no one knows. I mean, I know that Kevin Owens was a big name, but he's not AJ Styles.
Oh, now AJ Styles has been around for a long time, though. He will sell. He will sell
exactly.
tickets. And if you bring Seth Rollins back, no matter which capacity you bring him back as a heel or a face, you put AJ Styles opposite, they'll have some great matches.
Oh, yeah, the roof's coming off whatever place that happens the first time.
You know there's been another major injury in the last week, right?
I heard a rumbling that maybe Cena was injured.
I heard a rumbling of a name, too, and it was...
And his name is John Cena!
Sorry, I had to do that. John Cena, you're right. That's the one. Let's see, maybe about 6 to 9 months.
So what's the nature of this injury, Chris? Because I haven't really read up on it too much.
I haven't seen it mentioned yet. They just keep saying injury out 6 to 9 months possible.
Hangnail.
He'll miss WrestleMania and possibly the one after that.
Oh man!
Of course, there's your conspiracy theorists out there. I won't mention any names, the Rob, but conspiracy theorists are saying that he's going to try to sneak into Royal Rumble at number 30 and win the title. It's up for grabs, but I don't think it's going to be the case. I think he really is out for a while.
You know, people like that that are the same kind of people that are putting out these fake news things about how John Cena's granting his own Make-A-Wish and visiting himself in the hospital.
I did see that was pretty funny, though. You have to give that person credit for that. The big rumor, though, with the Royal Rumble, though, not John Cena coming in, really, is that they're saying that the 29 pick or the number 30 coming in will be Triple H. And they'll line up the last few picks to make sure there are people there to beat down Roman Reigns where Triple H can take the belt from him. What do you think about that?
Honestly, I think this is a big step backwards for the WWE doing this to the Royal Rumble. Because this is not what the Royal Rumble is supposed to be about. It is supposed to be about guys going out to get a chance to main event WrestleMania. They have perverted the meaning and the grandeur that is what is my favorite pay-per-view that the WWE puts out, has been for a long time. I can take or leave WrestleMania anytime, but I got to watch the Royal Rumble. And now this year I'm like, why? Because I know what's going to happen. Roman Reigns is going to be number 1 or number 2. And then it's going to come down to a bunch of the Triple H goons in the ring.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so predictable. And I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. I think it is truly that predictable and that much of a just giant steaming pile.
Well, I hope they don't go that direction with it. If they're going to make it anybody, just make it on a consistent wrestler. Even if it's Brock Lesnar coming back, dropping in late, and he gets it. I mean, at least it's a wrestler, not one of the authority people who are there just to have it around their waist to rub it in for a minute to the fans, so he can wrestle him at WrestleMania. No one's going to want to see that. Not many people.
Give it to El Torito for all I care. It's not like the belt really means much anymore, and that's the sad part. For me, the last two, really 2 or 3, even 3. I might even take it back to Seth Rollins. Title holders is just a joke. The way that it's the way that Lesnar was beaten, and then the way he went out, and how he never really got a fair shake at it, and then Rollins running around with the Stooges for so long, and then there was Roman Reigns was almost the champion, and then we bring out Sheamus to do his thing, and it just all felt so cheap. It just felt like the belt lost a lot of credit.
Yeah. Now I did see a rumor online. Once again, we say rumor because you never can tell who's real and what's not on there, but they also mentioned the Wolves leaving TNA to come over to WWE. Did you see anything about that yet?
Is TNA still a thing?
They are still a thing. Matter of fact, James Storm turned down WWE and went back to TNA.
Well, that's impressive.
And that was due to money. They weren't going to give him more money than what TNA was to wrestle for them.
Sometimes it's better to be big fish in a little pond.
I suppose so. But that's what he did. He went right back to him. I don't know if the Wolves will really come here or not. I guess it depends. But
I mean, that would be great for
the Bullet Club being here, having the Young Bucks here and having the Wolves.
I mean, it would be great for the tag division. Actually, I'm telling you what, I think we're going into a new era in the WWE. We're going from the PG era into the stable era. Because it seems like we're getting built up for a lot of possible stables to start.
Well, that's just rinsing and repeating again is all that's doing.
Well, yeah.
I mean, you're going back to your Degeneration X, Nation of Domination, Disciples of Apocalypse, I think it was, DOA, the Vince McMahon stable he had.
Yeah, the corporation.
The corporation.
The Ministry of Darkness.
Yeah, I mean, there's no need in redoing all that over again. It worked once for a little while, and they overdid it, and it got tiresome. No need in redoing it again.
I will say this, though. The WWE has more talent now that is better than they did then. They have a lot of talent. But I will tell you something, Chris. It doesn't matter how many stables they bring out or how many tag teams they bring in, because every single tag team and every single stable is going to have a bad day when they meet the...
I'm sorry, when they meet who, you said?
I said New Day.
New Day?
New Day.
I'm sure I know someone who can oppose that. Might be a little busy at the moment. I'm sure he'd oppose that for sure. Of course, now, all these are just talks of people coming through. There's no guarantee they're going to make it here. But if they do, though, that would be something to see for the tag team division at least. Something a lot better than what we've had in the past.
That would be like a steroid injection into it. It would boost it tremendously, instantaneously. I think we would see greatness happen. Of course, I have seen also rumors too, Chris, of Matt and Jeff Hardy returning to the WWE.
Now, that's been put out there for a little while now. And I don't know, because I would think if it was going to happen, it would have happened by now. I would think so anyway, but I don't know for sure, though.
This is like you said, you read it on the internet, so it has to be true.
That's right. If it's online, it's in print, it's happening.
Right. Bonjour.
There's an asteroid headed toward Earth right now. Bruce Willis is on a shuttle to drill into it as we speak.
Are you sure it's Bruce Willis?
No, but it's on the internet, so I'm just assuming.
Okay.
Well, we got about 5 minutes left to go, Mike. I want to go ahead and start putting some things out there. I want to give them one more shout out here while I'm thinking about it. Our sponsor from last week, and I brought them in this week as well. World Classic Big Time Wrestling. Basically, they do the style of wrestling that when wrestling was wrestling, the heroes battle the villains inside the squared circle. It's that wrestling that you remembered and liked growing up. So World Classic Big Time Wrestling, they are available for a variety of things. They'll be at the fairgrounds near you, an auditorium, anywhere like that you want them to come out. Contact them at 740-466-2892. And you won't be disappointed. Good company. Now, we had a few people we work with from time to time here, Mike, both directly and indirectly. And, these guys got some good shows out there. And I hope they do well. I hope we do well. But I want to give some shout-outs there to the Robin Ray Everything Wrestling page. They got a lot of interesting things going on over there. They do a lot of everyday wrestling talk, mostly new current events that they cover. And pay-per-views, Monday Night Raw, SmackDowns, New Japan Wrestling here lately. They've been kind of getting a little bit into it as well. There's something good to listen to. And Scott Middleton at I Love Everything 80s Wrestling podcast. If you're a fan of the 80s, like we are, and Lance Russell, our great guest we had tonight. he's the man you want to listen to for that. He's had some good shows in the past on Nick Bockwinkel on the Road Warriors and some of the past pay-per-views in general. So if you guys get a chance to listen to him as well. Mike, anything going on with you here lately that you want to talk about? Or
I was just saying how I've been disappointed with the last 2 weeks of Raw. It's fallen flat on its face after the Vince McMahon came and somehow managed to get Roman Reigns over on Raw and the title changed hands. That was like a glimmer of the old greatness that once was. But now we're back on the same sinking ship. The rats are running from the bows, trying to get up to the upper decks.
So why is it we have to have Vince McMahon there, you think? Why do we have to have him?
I don't know the answer to that, because he was there last week and it stunk too. But I think it stunk because we had too much McMahon. You know, he's out there. What is he, like 70-some years old now? He's out there. He takes his shirt. He's out there doing the ref thing. He's in the sleeveless thing, and you look at him, and the dude is bigger than Roman Reigns just about. You're looking at him like, this dude, 70-some-year-old man, looks like he's in better shape than their champ. Something is wrong.
Well, at least he didn't challenge him for a title match. That's all we can say for that. He's leaving that for his son-in-law, I guess, to take care of that matter. We'll see how that goes, though.
He was flexing.
Oh yes, when he went to count, he pulled that hand up and he flexed that muscle a little bit before he count one. Look at it again, then count two.
I did not know if I was watching a professional wrestling match or the Arnold Classic. This guy was posing so much that it was ridiculous.
Could have been a combination of the two.
I'm telling you, I think, do they have a senior division for that? Like, 70 and above? Because McMahon's going to take that. I mean, he's going to take that.
Contact one of the stooges he's got there, Briscoe or Patterson. They can let you know that one.
That's probably so, but I don't think they're going to be winning any of those championship bodybuilding things. Pat Patterson doesn't let his pretty boy gimmick go a long time ago.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get
the Doughboy.
We're going to get the website in here real quick, Mike, before we go. We got a minute 30 left. For those of you who are listening live with us today or download later, be sure to visit us at www.bodyslamthecompetition.com. That's where we do have the blog at, as well as a link to all of our podcasts, and also a link to the shows that you can go back and download here as well. We're also available on iTunes and on Blog Talk Radio at www.blogtalkradio.com/bodyslamthecompetition. That being said, Mike, we're at about a minute left here. Not a whole lot more we can talk about, so I guess we'll go and wrap it up about a minute early this week. Now we got everything in, and we want to thank Lance Russell once more time for coming on with us, and I hope to get him on soon. Mentioned the possibility of doing it. Maybe we can get him and Dave Brown together on the same show, and that would be a treat too. So if we can work it out, we will. Yeah, if we can, we will. If not, we'll definitely be getting them at individual times at least for sure. So hopefully my voice is back with us again next week, 100%. And we'll see you guys next week. And Mike and everybody else listening, as always, keep loving wrestling. And we will see you next week. Goodbye.